Let's get this show on the road. Joining me now is, let's introduce everybody. We got Pornhub.
Hello.
Currently hosting the channel. Thank you for being here, and thank you for the host. We got Mike Medeiros, a.k.a. Ceridium.
Kapla!
And my friend and cohort from Gates of Stovacor. And finally, Imposter Cure.
Hola, hello.
So, as I am wandering through the world of Stowe, we are going to talk about our first impressions of Star Trek Discovery. So, it premiered on Sunday. Current reports say that it has over 9 million people tuned in for the premiere, and just as many have been signing up to CBS All Access to see episode 2 in droves. By all accounts, it's been a financial success, and so far a critical one as well, even if the fan response has been a bit mixed. But Mike, let's start with you. What did you think?
Generally, I liked it. It had its little moments when I was trying to figure out what was going on, because there were a few differences, but from what I know, but generally I thought it was off to a good start, but it was all just backstory for Michael Burnham. So I don't know. Knowing that now, I think it's too early to even know what the show is about.
So which episode did you like more, 1 or 2?
Well, I fell asleep during my rewatch, or during my watch of episode 2. So, granted, I had been up since 5 a.m., had put out a show, had been excited. So by the time Discovery came around, I was pretty exhausted. I was pretty worn out. So by the time I got around to watching them, it didn't take much for me to pass out. I did like the first episode. The second episode, I ended up watching both this morning, and got through them just fine. Did not fall asleep, so that's a plus.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Which one do I like better? I don't know. It's hard to say, because they're really one story. Knowing after seeing them, I realized that you can't really distinguish you can't really separate the two. It's really one story. It's as if it's like a movie. That's how it's coming across for me. And first half they they just happened to split it into 2 parts, left a cliffhanger between the 2. But you can't really. I don't know. For me, you can't distinguish between the 2, because they're all really one and the same.
All right. So let me phrase it this way: what did you like most about the first 2 episodes?
What did I like most about the first 2 episodes? Looks cool. The special effects are amazing. The visuals are just wow. I didn't think I was gonna. I still don't think I'm gonna like Lieutenant Sarus all that much. He comes across very cowardly. I'm wondering what the hell is he doing in Starfleet.
Well, he did say his people were cattle at one point.
I didn't hear what.
I said he did say his people were cattle at one point.
Oh yes, cattle. They were livestock. So I can certainly understand his point of view, but again, I'm still curious to find out what he's doing in Starfleet, because Starfleet, it comes with a certain level of risk, and he seems so risk averse. But Michael Burnham, I really like her. The sense of wonder when she was, for instance, in the first episode when she was flying through, the debris field, when she. The sense of wonder on her face, and then the joy that she had when the thrusters kicked on. It was just like there was something about it that came across as, I don't want to say as innocent, but that I think a lot of people can really relate to. That everyone has that one thing that just both amazes you and puts puts a smile on your face, and and flying in space on thrusters was that thing for her. It was, I liked the adventurous spirit and the curiosity of her, and I found that pretty great.
Pon.
So, yeah, I think that would be what I enjoyed the most is her.
Awesome. Pon, what did you like most about the first 2 episodes?
I actually really liked the whole, in the beginning where Michelle Yeoh, her character, is having this interaction with Michael Burnham, and that, what would you do if you got lost on this planet for the next 80-something years? It's like that was a great way to introduce the characters, I think. Where they're running around and appear in circles supposedly, or they Michael Burnham thinks that they're running in circles. Then she's amazed to see her own footprints. Like, what the hell is going on? I really enjoyed that part. It was lighthearted. It didn't really make you think that something crazy was going to happen with the next hour or so of the show.
Made you put your guard down, huh?
Yeah, it did. It really did. It's like, oh, this is going to be another Star Trek show where, it's going to be character development in the first episode, maybe. It's like, it was, but not in the way I thought it was going to be. With, all this conflict going on, it's like, it surprised me a lot. I liked it.
Sweet.
However, there was one thing that really bothered me.
We'll get to that. We'll get to that.
Oh, man.
hold that thought. Imposter Cure, how about you? What did you like most?
Well, so first of all, I need to really kind of get this off. I am by no means a Trekkie. I have watched some of the Star Treks, but I really haven't been dedicated. I haven't watched them through in every single episode. Next Generation.
Sacrilege.
I've enjoyed them. Much like Doctor Who and Star Wars, I've always enjoyed these types of things. Space is kind of where I really like it, so I kind of relate to Star Trek that way. So when I talk about Discovery, I'm also talking about something from a different perspective rather than die-hard fan of the series. So there were a couple things that I disliked. Some of it was a lot of the way that they went about doing the show itself. I'll talk about that later. But what I did like that they did is that they really... I felt like their characters, the characters that they had, every single character, even everyone on the bridge, kind of had a personality. It really, you didn't get to see a lot, several of the individuals, which kind of sucked. But I feel like the way that they're going about it, they're telling kind of each person and bringing out a character. Something that I believe I remember was done in the previous Star Treks. I also really like the way that they're going about this. It feels like the new the first movie, the first Star Trek movie that came out recently. The way that they had kind of redone things, and that sense of oh, here's kind of a new thing that we're doing. That one was a remake. This one's kind of a brand new thing, as far as I am aware. and I really kind of like the way that they are going about things. Once I step back from separating myself from it being CBS to trying to air this and how they're doing that.
All right. Well, it's hard to pin down one thing that I really enjoyed most about the first 2 episodes of Star Trek Discovery. The characters are all wonderful. I'm a huge Michelle Yeoh fan, so her Captain Giorgio was a delight to see on screen. Sonequa Martin Green nailed Commander Burnham. Both that at that weird shift in her character from the explorer, that wide-eyed wonder that she saw in the world around her until she laid eyes on the Klingon, and then it became damage control. How do I contain this? How do I keep this from turning into a war? How do I even Saru? He's a very different kind of alien that we haven't seen in Star Trek before. It's kind of twitchy, kind of nervous. It's a different kind of alien, different kind of character than we've seen in many Star Treks before. He kind of reminds me of Lieutenant Barclay in that way, just without the neurotic tendencies. And of course the ship, the Shenzhou was beautiful. Excellent looking ship. All the ships that we saw were all wonderfully put together. I'd say if I had to nail down one thing that I really, really liked more than anything else was not the Klingons themselves, but their aesthetic. The design of the tomb ship, the design of their armor, the new bat'leth, the beacon. It was all so much form and function, which is the complete opposite of what we've seen of Klingons up to this point, where it's been more function over form. So that was really something. How about Mike? What did you dislike about the episode, though?
Was it a dislike?
Yeah.
There were aspects about the Klingons that I disliked. I did not like their armor. I did not like the bat'leth. What specifically some of the aesthetic on the thing that you seem to like is what I dislike.
That's fine.
For instance, on the armor, it's so elaborate. There's so much, little details, and it looks great. But for a race that is supposed to be that's supposed to go into battle often, it just seems like there's all these little nooks and crannies to get a blade stuck in. You can grab root. It just makes it that much easier to follow straight through. To me, that does not provide ample protection. So the things that you like are the things that for me are a liability. I mean, the Klingon bat'leth. What I didn't like, and it's the thing that ended up killing the torchbearer on the outside of the ship,
mm-hmm.
or on the outside of the beacon, is the fact that it had these two spikes pointing up, inward, towards the combatant.
Mm-hmm.
That also seems like a liability. I mean, I would figure that you'd probably want all the sharp pointy points pointed towards your enemy, not towards yourself. It's like, oh my god, these Klingons seem almost dumber than the ones I've come to know and love and respect. And it's like, oh my gosh. I do love their teeth, though, but at the same time, I hate their teeth. Visually, fantastic. However, I can't help but think how many times these actors, trying to say their lines, spit their teeth across the room.
It does kind of make them sound like they all have mouths full of peanut butter.
Or marbles. I mean, it's like, what the hell? So it makes the Klingon sound a lot harder, a lot harsher, a lot more difficult to pronounce. But visually, the teeth are great. Sadly, I think that's one of the biggest problems with this show. Is visually it's outstanding, but at the same time, it's the visual aspect that's a detriment to everything. It makes everything dangerous, everything less functional, in my opinion.
So it's a case of function or form over function with these Klingons.
Yes.
Pawn, how about you? What did you dislike?
The one thing I absolutely did not like was the fact that their bewilderment at the cloaking device. In Enterprise, they were fighting the Romulans, so cloaking devices are not new.
But it is a new thing for the Klingons to have, though.
Yeah.
In TOS,
but the concept seemed to have bewildered them, though.
Well,
the whole notion of having a cloaking device anywhere just seemed to have bewildered the entire crew. It's just kind of strange.
I didn't catch that, but okay, that if it did come across that way, then yeah, that could be definitely a problem. But cloaking devices aren't supposed to be new.
But
They're supposed to be.
A quick question for you guys, because from my understanding, this is like, what, 100 years before the other Star Treks?
It's 10 years before the original series.
Okay, so at that point, could it be that cloaking devices were indeed like something that was a technology that they were working on, but it wasn't widespread? Because with knowing about engineering and stuff like that, and looking at that, to me, them going like, oh well, there's all this new tech, like, oh, we have invisibility, like, yeah, sure, but they could be like working in progress for that, or it could be a technology that's not really readily available out to like the most intelligent of species.
Well, if I may address that, in TOS, it's kind of established that the Romulans are the ones that had developed the cloaking device. They, at some point during TOS era, during those 3 years, I think it's during the second year or something, a deal is negotiated between the Romulans and the Klingons. The Klingon ships, which are supposed to be these hardy, battle-ready vessels, in exchange for Romulan cloaking devices. So the idea that that cloaking devices come into play during TOS, sometime during TOS, isn't unusual. The fact that here's a Klingon that has developed one, maybe that is a possibility, yeah. But maybe it didn't work right, or maybe it had some flaws, and Romulan cloaking devices were better, which prompted the change later on, or the deal later on.
Well, the ship itself looks pretty ancient, so it stands to reason that it might have been a part of the ship as some sort of older, forgotten Klingon technology, or perhaps even Herc. That's one thing that I don't know if anyone's thought of yet or have talked about it, that these Klingons or this ship could be of Herc origin or Herc inspired. The Herc being a race that conquered the Klingons, and they fought to free themselves and then reverse engineered technology to become spacefaring once again.
I mean, it could be. It's just, from what I remember of just Star Trek lore and canon is that most, or pretty much all cloaking devices use some similar technology, and the computer would have some sort of signature, like, oh, tachyon would be emitted somewhere, and clearly they would have noticed that if it was a cloaking device.
Well, they mentioned that. They touched on that in episode 2, where they said some kind of unknown energy field was blocking their scans. Turned out to be a cloaked ship impaling another ship.
Right, but they kind of knew that already in Enterprise, which was how many years before?
Well, they also had help from the future in Enterprise.
This is true. I mean, unless they lock that knowledge away.
Canon is certainly tricky.
It is messy. It's just like, it kind of bothered me. It's like they were so bewildered at the concept of a cloaking device after they, like, you know, the first crew, you know, to explore space.
Well, just because Enterprise saw it doesn't mean that everyone knows about it.
Oh, right, but I mean, I would think Starfleet would have taught the history of the Enterprise, what they've encountered in the past.
You never know, but that's a discussion for a different time. Anything else, Mike? Or no, Pon. Anything else about what you disliked?
I mean, you know, it's teething problems with the show. You know, there's like way too many flashbacks. I think in the beginning. It just kind of bothered me how many flashbacks there were in like the first 2 pilot episodes. It's just
backstory has backstory. It's like breaking the fourth wall while you're in the fourth wall.
That's like 16 walls. Hey, Baz, thanks for being here.
It was a little bit too much. I feel like there could have been more action or something to draw more people into getting into the show, rather than backstory that could have been there, maybe episode 3 or something. That, and I think Burnham had a little bit too much, like, extreme emotion change, you know, because she was raised on Vulcan, now but she's really human, and she's, you know, she has these white bipolar swings, almost. I mean, I think it was a little bit too much. Personally, but,
you confront an alien species that, you know, killed your entire family and tell me you're completely stable.
True.
Imposter, how about you? What did you dislike about Discovery?
Well, outside of how slow the Klingons, that drove me absolutely bonkers. Like, I get it. Like, maybe they're, you know, I was trying to rationalize it. Like, okay, maybe they're just like their emphasis, like Japanese is very fluid, dynamic, and it flows very well, so it's very fast. Most Japanese can spit off a sentence in like 5 or 6 seconds, you know, seconds, depending on what they're saying. And the language is built that way, and maybe Klingon is built a little bit more structured, and I haven't done it. I want to kind of learn Klingon.
Klingon is definitely a difficult and different kind of language.
And that's kind of what I was thinking, but it's still, like, even if it was, like, it still would not be as slow as it was, and so that was kind of a turn-off. The other thing is, I don't like how they changed the Klingons. I know that they were trying to change. They were trying to change what the Klingons kind of look like each kind of episode to make them more monster-like or whatever.
More alien, I'd say.
Yeah. But I really kind of disliked how they did it. I don't really see them. I also agree on the armor. One of the things about the armor that it's like I could be is that it's a ceremony armor, and in most cultures throughout the world, ceremony armor is typically something you would never take into battle, you would never fight with. So the same thing with the torchbearer, it's kind of like ceremony armor, because from my standpoint is he was kind of the beacon to bringing everybody about. So I could see that, but I don't think that outside of like the torchbearer himself, I don't think that the rest of them would have very fancy looking armor. I would see them as being very function oriented rather than aesthetically pleasing, because
I like you already.
what I see in my knowledge of like samurai and warriors, knights, paladins, things like that in ancient history for us, is they would always have this function. Like they have a specific function for the armor they were going for.
It's designed to pull the weapon away from you.
Well, no, I mean like it depends. Like, each culture has a different way that they go out. Some will have more openings, but it's meant to be lighter, more robust. To me, the Klingons feel kind of like paladins or Spartans. They're very much like, we are warriors. We are trained to be warriors. We are warriors through and through. And so either A, go barbarian route, so your armor is very patchy, very very a lot of open, but it allows movement, a lot of movement. Or go very robust and tanky, because I see them as going either way in that sense. And so that I would agree in there that bothered me when the armor felt too fancy, too Italian, or
Too Baroque.
yeah. And I agree. I felt like he was too afraid and whatnot. I did feel like he was too afraid. It was just like, well, this is going on, but he would not speak up to anybody but her. And
Lieutenant Saru you're referring to.
Yeah.
Okay.
And like, he did not. He didn't say that to the captain. He only said it to her, and that's kind of like when I felt her mood change the most drastic. Instead of it being like a fight for my life, it's now all right, I need to protect my crew and my captain. But he never spoke up to the captain and whatnot. And that kind of bothered me, because I felt like somebody in his position would.
Well, he was the only one who spoke up to Burnham after she nerve pinched the captain.
That is the case, yes.
Anything else in particular that you disliked about these episodes?
I watched them today, so as of right now, no. That might change.
All right. As for me, of the things that I wasn't too happy about, hard to say. I really enjoyed these two episodes. The Klingon armor, as much as I loved how they looked, they seemed to really, not only the armor but the makeup, it really seemed to restrict the actors' movements and ability to emote and even speak in some cases. Takumva often comes off like he's got a mouthful of peanut butter, and in his most dramatic moments, he would speak in a higher registry, and that's something I haven't seen often from Klingon so far, and it's very jarring to me. He didn't come off to me as charismatic as I imagined they wanted him to be. The Klingons in particular all seemed very still and stone-faced. I didn't get to see a great range of emotion. I didn't get to see the passion that I'm accustomed to seeing when it comes to Klingons. When it comes to the joy for battle, their passion for life and conflict and contest. I unfortunately didn't see any of that except in Vok, when he thrust his hand over that brazier to show his devotion. But otherwise, they came off very wooden, and I was a little disappointed in that.
I can kind of agree with that. They seemed a little too solemn, like But it could have been because for some reason this was some kind of cult-like, you know.
Thank you for the host artifice. Thank you very much.
Like this was almost a cult, a subcult, a cult of the Klingon Empire. Everyone was much more reserved. There was this quote unquote charismatic religious leader. We even had in the character of Kov, we had a fanatic.
Mm-hmm.
You know? So it just seemed like this was more of a Klingon cult than anything else. I mean, even the way that they ritualistically handled their dead was different than what we've known. What is the purpose to a race that or a species that believes that in the afterlife you don't need a body? You go there, you get a new body, and the old shell is just, it's worthless, you know. If that's what Klingons have been, well, Klingons that we've known up to this point have believed, what purpose does it serve to entomb I mean, at one point I was thinking, okay, perhaps it's for shock value, but wouldn't just displaying the dead outright on the hull of their ship have more of an impact?
Very
Reaver-like.
Yeah, the Reavers. Yeah. Well, you and I talked about this a bit over Facebook Messenger, or in the comments on the post, that the Klingons are a big culture, and there's a lot of different sides of them. It could be, and just think about how many different kinds of funeral rites we have on this planet, on the different people throughout the world. This could be just a different sort of funeral rite for a different group of Klingons.
True, and one of my responses to that was something along the lines of these happen to be the Lutheran or the Baptist Klingon compared to Holy Catholic Kalish Church or whatever. But nonetheless, to me, these guys come across very cult-like, and they're doing things a little bit different, which makes me wonder what version of the teachings of Kalis are they following. Is it the true teachings of Kalis? Is it a perverted version of Kalis' teachings? That remains to be seen. But it's one thing's for sure, it doesn't seem to be the version that we see later on.
Yeah, that is, and to Kuvma especially, when he spoke in English, I saw his inflection. I felt his passion. But when he spoke in Klingon, I didn't get that Kalis Reborn vibe from him.
It's difficult to Klingon as a second language. And I think that's more of a failing of the actor. And I don't want to say a failing, because Klingon is a hard language. But I still think it's a limitation of the actor's ability rather than his skill as an actor. Just his lack of skill to speak in Klingon. I mean, I think these guys were given, they were given an audio recording and then phonetic spellings on a sheet of paper and sent home with that as homework. Yeah. I mean, how fluent can you? Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
You can also do it on Duolingo. They're bringing Klingon to it. Just to kind of throw that out there, that there are options to be able to do it rather than just looking at a piece of paper.
Yeah, but the point I'm saying, I was trying to make is here these people are new to the language. They're given very little time to learn it, And it's hard to sound fluent when you have such a short amount of time to learn it in the first place, and B, you have a mouthful of marbles or peanut butter in which to do it. So I do not blame or discredit the actors for their attempts, because Klingon is difficult, and as well as they did, I was very pleased. But yeah, understanding what is involved, it was no easy task, and I think they did phenomenal just attempting it.
I gotta say, one of the standout things for me in this episode first was the Klingon Cole. He seemed to be the only Klingon in the group who wasn't, impaled on a spike up their backside. He actually had some emotion in his face and in his eyes when he was speaking to T'Kunva. Yeah.
Cove? Okay, so he's the albino.
No. Cole.
Which one's that?
He's the one who said he's not going to listen and shut off the transmission before the battle started.
With the red streaks on his cheeks.
Yes.
Right? Oh,
yes.
Yeah.
He's supposed to be something of a more traditional Klingon. He's in the leathers that we're used to seeing Klingons in.
I do like him.
Yeah.
I do like him.
He seems to have... I actually got emotion from him. So that was interesting. And another aspect of the Klingons that I saw was the one... There was a woman, a female Klingon among
on the High Council.
On the High Council. That's something that we haven't seen in previous Star Treks. In fact, they made a point in DS9 to say that women could not serve on the Council.
Yeah, it was a no-go.
So it's nice to see another bit of sexism quietly shuffled to the side, like it didn't happen, like that whole women can't command starships bullcrap that we saw in TOS. But the interesting thing about her character design was that jewelry that was decorating her crest and the chains that dangled in front of her face. That was interesting. That was a little compelling for me. How about small stuff that you guys picked up on that you really liked? Pawn, you first.
Small things. Oh boy. Honestly, the bridge design was so detailed that it kind of impressed me, because in the past, the bridge was always very simple before the reboot movies.
Mm-hmm.
The bridges were always super simple. There wasn't really all that much, but then you have this bridge-wide view screen, and all the consoles were super detailed with all this information, and all the little details that they added to them. It was impressive, because before Elcar's is very, there was some detail to it, but most of it was just colored buttons,
and a few Easter eggs here and there.
Right.
But you never were really able to see.
Well, enough people were able to pick up on the names of the doctors in the what was it? The final episode of season 1 of TNG.
Yeah, but you had to pause and get up close. Not always easy to look at. But I'm sure there are people already doing that to discover.
Of course.
Oh, yes.
Playing,
rewinding.
In
one of the reboot movies, they zoomed into that one little spot where they had the promo code for something or something, just on one of the scenes on a bulkhead, and I was like, how did you find that?
Imposter, how about you? Something small that really stuck out at you.
That's a good question. I really liked the effects. They felt to be just enough. They didn't feel like they went overboard on what they could do. The boosters and the asteroid belt. What they were seeing on the image of the screen the nuances of like the shield generator and everything. I felt like they did a really good job with detailing what things were going on. I guess that would be like the little things that I saw, especially like the small things around the ship that really kind of made it feel like a Star Trek ship.
Very cool. Baz says that he only watched it once, but he was just absorbed in the story and that he loved it. Well, I think we've covered just about everything. Oh, how about the story itself? Michael Burnham's journey throughout these 2 episodes. Imposter.
Real quick, can I mention a couple of small things that I enjoyed?
Oh, sure. Oh, I'm sorry. Did I miss you? Did I overlook you? Mm-hmm. Sorry about that. Sorry. Go ahead, Mike.
I like in the asteroid belt when she's flying through it. You know, I like how her HUD was. It would track her eyeball, depending on where she was looking. I thought that was some fun technology, the way that they handled that. And then when she's in the brig and everything gets destroyed and she's like the only thing standing, I thought that was pretty cool. Starfleet security, I mean, those force fields, they mean business. I mean, damn, there's nothing around her. She's completely contained. That's some serious shit right there, let me tell you.
That's some impressive engineering for sure.
I mean, those force fields mean business. I mean, damn. Yeah. So I really like that. But the detail on all the force fields, I mean, that was interesting. It makes me wonder, you know, how that technology is kind of created. It's almost like a lattice of energy that, you know. So that makes me you know, just gets the engineer in me to, you know, gets those wheels rolling.
They've come a long way from fluorescent light bulbs.
Well, yeah, indeed, it's a fluorescent light bulb, and it's a solid, you know, solid wall of blue, you know, blue light, so to speak. And these are now, it's now like a lattice of interconnected. So it's almost as if they're shooting like almost like little lasers, you know, high-powered lasers back and forth to create this this wall of energy, for lack of a better term. And you can kind of see that detail, and I find that really interesting, really fascinating. So, yeah, the engineer in me just loves that shit. So
I have to agree with you. In this one, it really felt like they were this advanced human race.
Yeah.
And I agree with you on that engineer aspect of like, oh my god, okay, like they actually have all these things that, you know, or stuff that we're working on, but way more advanced now.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
I was surprised by how integrated the holographic projections were throughout the ship, from communications to status displays and so many others.
Yeah, the Doctor would have no problem.
Yeah, but it all fit. It didn't feel like it was out of place. It feels like that sort of technology belonged in this setting, and it'll be interesting to see how the Shenzhou was supposed to be an older ship. Just imagine what they're going to have on the Discovery.
Well, the transporter room was an old.
Well, yes.
Yeah, I'm kind of interested to see what they do next, but that transporter room, oh my god, did not like it. I think
that the entire Shinju was an older ship, and it was meant to be an older ship. Saying like, it's like when I was in the Marine Corps, we were on the last steam engine, the last steamboat in the Navy, and that was the ship that we rode on. You know, that's kind of what I feel like the Shinjuku is. The last,
wait.
Yeah,
because ships are still steam driven. They just have Are you talking coal or
No. Steam, like hot water and whatnot. So
nuclear ships are run on steam.
But what I mean is it's the last steam where it's not using nuclear engines.
Yeah.
It's using what's
gasoline or some kind of petrol.
Yeah, petrol. It's using the petrol to burn, create the steam, and then drive the ship.
Okay, I think I see what you're saying. Okay.
I understand what you're saying, but it, although for being an older ship, it seemed awfully well maintained.
Well, it's Starfleet
to be. But it just seemed too shiny and new to be processed as an older ship. I mean, the transporter room, to me, looked like the oldest thing aboard the whole ship.
Yeah, but like I said,
and I guess that was the point. But
the steam engine was the only, out of my deployment that I went on, the steamboat that we were on was the only ship that actually did not break down and continued to maintain its functionality.
Well, sounds like they had a good engineering department.
It could be. So, like, I could see it being well maintained. And you're right, it did look like it was the oldest, but again, we don't know what everything else looks like. You know, we're just going from what it, and from the way that the show portrayed it was, this is the oldest ship in our fleet.
They didn't say oldest. She said she may be an older ship, but she gets the job done.
That's what I meant. Was, you know, it feels like the oldest or a really.
She's like a Miranda.
Yeah, like something.
But that's just the thing. Wasn't the Europa pretty much a Miranda?
I think it was, but I think Mirandas were new back then.
I think they were really new at the time. It makes sense for an admiral to be pilot, like having one of those, though. So
yeah. And one other thing, the telescope.
See,
I
loved how rusty it looked.
I loved the fact that they had a telescope and they were using it to try and figure out what that object was. I thought that was wonderful.
I think it was a decorative piece, but it was a functional decorative piece that they were actually able to use.
Yeah.
Well, I
in this
don't think
case,
it was a decorative piece at all. I think it was just one of them enjoyed stargazing, and it was a relic of their past. Like the captain's past, because she seemed older, so she might have had one of those before she became a captain, and it might have been like her
from when she was a child. Yeah.
Yeah, like what really led her to become a captain.
Yeah, I agree with that, but for it to be on that ship in her ready room, so to speak, I think it would have been more of would have been something from her past. I think at this point it was something decorative, something that she had brought over from her childhood, so to speak, to kind of sort of decorate her office, to kind of keep her roots, so to speak.
Yes, but the point is they used it.
Exactly, which is I loved when technology fails.
Another thing with that, the technology thing was when they were being blinded by the lights. Why didn't they just turn off the V screen?
Because it's glass.
It's a window.
It was glass. It was
They didn't have any shutters.
They all the filters were on high.
Yeah.
So supposedly they did filter it out, but
it wasn't
enough.
It was like the Kelvin.
It just seems like strange design that you wouldn't have any like physical shutter for something like that.
Well, it's not actually glass.
Like
it's supposed to be
bulkhead or
transparent aluminum. So it's a transparent metal.
Yeah.
It's kind of bugged me, like, because it's not really explained in that sense. So,
Well,
like,
they can't explain everything.
No, but I mean, the average viewer is going to be like, why didn't they just shut it off?
Yeah, it's because it's a window, a wall. But one thing I was pleased to see is a robot, not an android, a robot on the ship. But that kind of makes me wonder, and something that I think has been missing from Star Trek for the longest time is robots. I want to see more robots. I want to see them repairing the ship. I want to see them cleaning the hallways. I want to see what does a 23rd century Roomba look like. That's what I want. That's what I want to see.
Where does all the trash go? Like if someone accidentally drops something,
goes into the replicator. They break it down into raw energy.
Does someone else pick it up and then throw it in the replicator?
Or the Roombas come and get it.
Come take it to the charging mat or whatever.
It's what they do with decommissioned EMHs.
Oh gosh.
That was an interesting plot point back then in Voyager. Like all the EMHs are now scrubbing conduits, and that sounds horrible.
Talk about a bruise to the ego. Final thoughts.
And that's one hologram that definitely had an ego.
Final thoughts, Mike?
I really want to see more. I mean, this is all, as I said at the beginning, this is just backstory. We haven't even gotten to the meat of the show. We haven't even met the real ship yet.
We haven't met the real captain yet.
Exactly. So it's like all this is just backstory. I in one way, I kind of feel gypped. It's like we haven't even started started Discovery yet. This is all set up. And in that way, I mean, what we saw, I thought was great. I liked it a lot, and I'm glad to have that bit of backstory for Burnham. And the preview, I'm like, holy crap! What we're going to be seeing next is going to be certainly really interesting, I think. But I want to see an actual episode of Discovery, not this 2-hour movie setup for prelude, this prequel, this I want to see the real show, and I'm excited.
Pon, your final thoughts.
And more.
I mean, there's one thing that actually I just want to talk about. The ethical argument with the computer and the brig. Yeah. That kind of threw me off. It was like, well, having an argument with the computer about escaping the brig because she's a prisoner. In a sense. It's like she's trying to, talking to the computer saying that she wants to activate the ethical... I can't remember exactly what she said, but... to let her out because there's nothing around her, and she's having this... trying to have a logic argument with a computer, which I guess is the only argument you can have with a computer.
Well, it's
you can only bring logic to it, and to change its mind. Otherwise, it's gonna say no.
It is a bit of a tradition for Star Trek to have logical arguments with computers and winning.
But I mean, it's just that little scene. I was not expecting that. It's like. I was just wondering, the whole time, how is she going to get out of that? Is someone going to come save her?
Nope, she saves herself.
I was like, and then see all the burns on her body as she's flying, or not the burns, but the vacuum just taking her color away as she's flying through. The detail that they did with the CGI was impressive.
And that's what happened there is actually backed up by science, which I thought was really cool. The 15 seconds is about how long you can survive in space, it's actually tests have been done to prove that 15 seconds. It's like, and what they were talking about is by the time you got over to the door, you would not be cognitive enough to be able to open the door. That's also an actual fact, which is really cool to see.
Yeah. It certainly was, and Star Trek tradition in using real science to drive the narrative.
and the computer had an ethical program, which I thought was also interesting.
But it makes complete sense when you consider you're dealing with Starfleet and the Federation.
Well, no, just the fact that you're working with an AI. You want to be able... I mean, an AI left unchecked can be a fairly scary thing. Just ask anyone who's seen Terminator.
Just ask anyone who's seen not the Enterprise incident, the episode with the M5.
Yeah. So, I mean, the fact that there's an ethical subroutine that kicks in to make sure that, you know, I don't want to say it makes it more human, but it gives it... I think it makes it easier to interact with, and it allows it for it to adjust to unique situations, such as, oh shit, 3 decks are missing.
I mean, the only other times we see AI on Star Trek really is when it's a hologram involved. When it's a program that it was asked to be created by somebody, and now it's just having AI, you know, just out in the open.
Well, with the exception of Data, up till that point, it was always computers out of control, logic that runs counter to human survival. And then Data shows up, and suddenly it's coexisting with machines, coexisting with AI, the exocops. Lore, what was his kid's name? I forget. Data's daughter. Lol. And it looks like we're finally seeing that carry forward in Discovery as well. Not only with the computer system, but with the robotic crew member as well.
With that guy from Star Wars, you know, the guy with the thing wrapped around his head.
Yeah.
I thought that was... I was like, oh wait, I've seen that guy before. He's from Star Wars.
Any other final thoughts, Pawn?
I'm just excited for the next 2 episodes. Like, hopefully we'll see a lot more of, you know, the rest of the crew, because we didn't really see, you know, a lot of the characters that were on the Shenzhou. You know, and what happened to the rest of the crew as well, because it's kind of like just cuts off at the end of episode 2
with the court martial. Yeah,
like, oh, the court martial happened to... what happened to the ship? Like, they were dead in the water at the end of the episode, so what else happened? I mean, I know that's not the show, like, the show is not Star Trek Shenzhou, but I'm kind of curious what happens. I'm sure they'll explain some of it, at least. Like,
hopefully
flashbacks or something, like, you know, what happened for some of the characters. So they seem to like flashbacks a
lot. Imposter Cure.
I don't know. We'll see where it goes. I kind of agree. I don't like the way that they went about it. You know, promoting their channel. Like, I get it. You know, you got to promote kind of things like that. Having the one free and then being like, all right, now you got to pay for it, bugs me. But I mean, that's kind of a personal issue out of other things that I've mentioned and talked about. So I'm interested to see what's going to happen, what they're going to do with this, and where it might go from. So that'll be kind of cool.
All right. As for me, I'm excited. I've enjoyed these 2 episodes very much, despite the fact, I mean, they are prologues. There's a lot of unanswered questions, but this is going to be a serial show. They're telling a large story over the course of a season, so it's going to take time to mature and to come into its own. And I'm willing to be patient and see where the story goes. I'm excited. Is it Sunday yet?
Yeah.
And I'm hoping that the rumors of a second season are true. I really do. The rumors being that the second season would involve something other than the Klingon War. And it's supposed to be resolved within the first season. So whether that's chapter 1 or chapter 2, but I'm still excited.
Yeah. Yes, Baz. Monday night for you Aussies.
Wait, he's down under. So wouldn't that be like Tuesday morning? I don't know. I'm just messing with you, Baz. Hi.
So yeah, that's. So final notes. Is it worth CBS All Access? Yes or no? Imposter.
I haven't decided yet on that one.
Undecided? Okay, that's valid. Pun.
To me, I think it's worth it, personally, as a Star Trek fan, but for someone like Imposter who isn't necessarily a Star Trek fan, it's going to depend on what CBS puts out in the future, if it's going to be worth it, because, you get that content potentially commercial-free instead of having to slog through commercials.
Mm-hmm.
So that could bring the cost of, your content per episode down to make it actually worth it for someone that's not a diehard Trek fan like us. So for me, yes. Not necessarily for anyone else, though.
All right.
Well, I don't necessarily agree. I mean, there's so much more to CBS All Access than Star Trek. So saying that it's not worth it for anybody else other than a Star Trek fan is kind of unfair.
There are other All Access originals like The Good Fight.
And the originals are just.
I said.
The originals are just getting started, but there's a lot of local content. There's a lot of their entire back library. I mean, which is huge, and it's not just stuff that aired on CBS. It's stuff that aired on NBC, ABC, that CBS produced.
Mm-hmm. So,
saying that the Star Trek is the only reason is, like I said, is unfair. Now, granted, I think it's well worth it. That's why I've been subscribed since the moment they announced that it's a thing. I paid for Discovery, damn it. As soon as they announced CBS All Access was a thing, and as soon as they said that Star Trek Discovery was going to be on it, yeah, they had $10 a month they had $6 a month from me at first. Then once they went commercial free, they got $10 out of me. Go ahead.
But the question is are they going to be able to produce content that's going to equal Hulu, equal Netflix, equal Crunchyroll? Like each one has their purpose, but they've been around longer. They have a better fan base. They have to bring down an amazing service to take people over, and I don't think that they're going to be able to do that.
Well, here's what
I really don't.
CBS has an advantage is that they're a production studio as well as a network. So they make content for broadcast television. That entire back library is there, and that includes contemporary stuff like Blue Bloods, The Good Wife, and other shows like it. Pretty much all of the major procedural shows. NCIS, Law and Order, all.
NBC.
Oh wait, oops, sorry. What am I? I'm thinking of. It's one of the big CSI? Procedurals, huh?
CSI, maybe.
Yeah, CSI.
My problem with that though is like most of these shows will graze Netflix at some point, or have grazed Netflix at some point.
Exactly. That's the big thing is Netflix has already had them, because CBS is new, and with the general distrust of most of the world against news anchors and whatnot like that. So it's going to be very interesting to see if they can actually pull it off.
Mm-hmm.
I guess we'll see.
I personally think that All Access is worth it because, well, one, you're supporting Star Trek. You're supporting this show that if you enjoy it, it's worth taking it. It's worth trying.
Yeah.
It's worth watching through the season. And you're also paying for the potential for new Star Trek, the follow-on to Discovery, the next
I've
chapter.
Also heard,
Yeah,
well, I've also heard that Nicholas Meyer, he wrote The Wrath of Khan, rumored,
and is one of the writers for Discovery.
He's working on another project separate from Discovery. Some people have speculated that it could be the second series of what originally Brian Fuller had envisioned. Fuller had envisioned an anthology series. Basically, every season would be a new crew, new sets, new time frame within the Star Trek universe. And CBS decided characters. We want to explore these characters beyond just the one season story, which would have been just the Klingon War.
Mm-hmm.
So they decided, okay, we're going to keep Discovery going after that. But that's not to say that they're not going to continue on with what Fuller originally envisioned, which was another show centered around one of his other ideas, which from what I understand, one series would have taken place between TOS and TNG. Another one would have taken place during Dominion War. Another series would have been after Nemesis. So, or another seasons is what I meant, not series. If I said series,
Yeah.
But now all of those become potential series. Maybe it's a one-off series where they tell that one story and then move on, or it could lead to a full series with multiple seasons. The potential for Star Trek in this streaming environment is potentially endless, and that gets me so very excited.
And unfortunately, that was one of the points of contention between Brian Fuller and the producers, is that he wanted to do a full anthology show where it would change each season, and you'd have one set story, and then you'd move on to a different ship and a different crew. And we do
Very expensive.
Yeah.
Very expensive.
But if Discovery is a success, there is the potential for more kinds of Star Trek. If you don't like how Discovery is turning out, they'll produce a different Star Trek with a different feel, with a different crew in a different setting.
You'll see on the CW, it's going to be Star Trek 90210.
More like what they're doing with the Arrowverse. So you'd have one ship and crew, then you'd have a different ship and crew who would occasionally cross over and have other crazy adventures.
Although I don't know if crossovers would happen if they're taking place in different times.
Yeah.
That would be the only thing that would prevent that. Now, if it was more like TNG era, where you had TNG, DS9, Voyager, crossovers would be a lot easier to do. But having everything within the same time frame, unless one series happens to be temporal investigations or whatever, a DTI series. Now that I wouldn't mind, but
or a show based on Star Trek Online.
Yeah.
It's a CSI Star Trek where they investigate all the crimes that happen.
There was a joke article that was put out a couple years ago to that same effect.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think I remember that article. They speculated something like a hospital show, a legal show, a kind of like police procedural, but Starfleet or
Ag Trek.
So I mean, all kinds of potential. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh no, you're good. I thought there was a lull, and I'm like, I'll take it, and then it's like, nah.
But I think that'll about... yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
I agree. I agree wholeheartedly. It could go any direction. So it all depends on what they do, and we'll really kind of find out what their intent is and see where it goes from there before being able to form a coherent opinion on it. Are they going to totally ruin the universe Star Trek has set? Or are they actually going to follow the lore, follow all of the canon and everything like that to keep it up to date and keep it going with what the potential of the universe is?
Another thing that kind of bothered me about All Access, though, is the amount of options for subtitles that Netflix has that All Access doesn't have. Like, I saw a picture where there's, like, English, Spanish, Chinese, Klingon for subtitles on the Netflix version, and there's no such options on the All Access version. Because, like, if there was a Chinese subtitle option, my mother could watch, and she could probably understand everything. But she doesn't have that choice, because it doesn't exist.
Don't see why they'd include it with as many people that complained about the Klingon subtitles.
CBS All Access is region locked, so have something to do with it. But yeah, I can understand your what you're saying and the need for it, because certainly my parents they speak Portuguese fluently. I mean, I think they would get into it more if there was a Portuguese option rather than the English.
Like the audio commentary option, like where's that for CBS All Access?
Baz has got to go. He says, "Love you guys."
Bye, Baz.
All right, I think that'll about wrap it all up. There's some great talk about the show, great potential for where it's going, and maybe we can make this a regular thing.
Sure.
All right. Well, thank you guys for being here. How about we call Stowe quits and head over to PUBG?
Ooh, I like that option. As I'm trying to play this game and talk about Discovery at the same time. I've already started 5 games.
Oh my.
Well,
I've died a whole lot.
Well, thank you for everyone for joining us for our Star Trek Discovery impressions. We'll see you next time.
Kabla!
Kabla! I like that.